So I call it gentle, firm discipline. So many parents, even moms, can internalize the false belief that boys need stronger discipline than girls. However, your sensitive son can learn a lesson better when he's calm and receptive. So when you're disciplining your son, it's important to talk to him in a soft, gentle manner. And I think it's easier in Denmark because that's more accepted. But you don't know how many times in the United States I've been in a public place, a store, wherever, restaurant, and you see these moms and dads screaming at their kids, and they don't have a clue how they're traumatizing the 1 out of 5 sensitive children. It ain't great for a child who's not sensitive, but if it's a sensitive child and the mom spanking them and screaming at them, humiliating them, it can create PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. So yes, you need to be firm, but in a very soft, gentle way that you talk about it. If mom screams at her sensitive boy when he misbehaves, he becomes more frightened and upset by her anger than a non-sensitive child. And here's the other thing that you have in your favor is sensitive boys generally feel guilty when they make mistakes. So you don't really need to punish them because they'll feel guilty. You know you're supposed to clean up or you're supposed to not, do this or that, and they feel badly for it. So frequently, all you have to do is just tell them in a nice way. What you can do is, that's why I said the more other grandma and aunts and other people being involved rather than all the stress being on you. What you can do is after you've done it, you could say, I'm really sorry. Mommy was in a stressful state. I was very upset. I didn't mean that. And you stroke the child and can I give you a hug? Please know that that's not how I meant to talk to you. And it's really good for a parent to make yourself vulnerable like that, because so many parents are like, I don't know about in the Danish culture, but in the American culture especially, it's like, I am the authority, I do no wrong, you're wrong, and they'll never admit that they made a mistake. And what a wonderful role model to say, I made a mistake. It gives your child then a permission to say, oh, my mom made a mistake, my dad made a mistake, I made a mistake. It makes it okay. We're not perfect. So that's wonderful. Yeah, you're going to absolutely blow it. But as soon as you do, as soon as you're aware that you really screamed at the kid or you're stressed out, you let the child know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. And the child, at that age, the very younger children are very forgiving. Oh, okay, Mom, I understand you're stressed out. So yeah. So listen to your sensitive son. You still have limits. Listen to them. Acknowledge that you accept your sensitive child. If there's negativity where you are in your society, or if a teacher or your sensitive son had some experience like that, let them know why people feel negative towards sensitive boys and that something wrong with them, not him. Always reinforce all these positive attributes of your sensitive child. Let them know that everybody's different and differences should be respected. Never tolerate anyone shaming your sensitive son. And actually the next thing I have here is if you accidentally scream at your sensitive son, quickly apologize and tell him you made a mistake. That was like literally right here. Try to be vigilant, not putting your son in situations where he'll be humiliated. And make sure the sensitive child feels safe in new situations. But it's also important to teach your son how to set boundaries with other children. You can say, no, this doesn't work for me. I want you to do so and so. So for the dad, it's somewhat similar in terms of never, shouting at the son. But it's very important that the dad has a very important role as the role model for the boy. And many dads mistakenly believe that their son should become more aggressive to fit in with the non-sensitive guys. And so a father does need to teach his son how to stand up for himself, but he also has to understand, protect, and encourage his sensitive son. And one sensitive man from Denmark told me, "My father tried to fulfill his dreams through me, and it turned out to be a disaster. I was a very shy boy, and my dad would pressure me to act more assertive at home and at school, telling me that men needed to seize the world. He wanted me to act like a Viking, yet I had anxiety just being in a group of other children." So that was a Danish guy. Many sensitive men in my study told me it helped them to have a role model of a man who's sensitive. And again, dads need to discipline in a very gentle way. And it's also important for dads to question their own beliefs of what it means to be a man and look for new definitions of masculinity. And dad needs to tell the son, when guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger are exalted in the media as if being, that's how a man should be, you need to speak up and let your son know, no, that's not how to act tough all the time. That's not being a man. A man shows their real feelings. And teaching him to set limits is very important. Oops, I have my clock here so I know what time the break is. So now we're going to go to public school classroom. It could be very challenging for a sensitive child. Don't forget the stimulation of a sensitive boy, it's very hard. A lot of times they have these bright lights, fluorescent lights, kids running around making noise, and they get overwhelmed, and frequently in public schools. So one man from Denmark said, "I was very shy and embarrassed to make mistakes in front of my classmates, so I avoided speaking up in class, which made me feel more uncomfortable. I would always try to figure out what was the right thing to say before speaking up. This hesitance made the teachers think I didn't understand the material, and they were surprised when I would get high grades." So a lot of sensitive boys in school right here in Denmark feel shy and embarrassed to speak up. And some teachers might think there's something wrong with the boy. So it's very important for the parents to be very active in the school. Are the teachers treating your son in the right way? Are they being sensitive to his needs? And you need to educate the teacher that your child is sensitive. And more one-to-one bonding is very good. So I don't know if there's bullying as much here as there is in other cultures. But why sensitive children get bullied is because the bully is looking for a reaction. And so if a bully pushes a sensitive boy and he gets upset and the child sees it, then they're going to want to keep doing that. So that's a real problem. So, and also most boys who are sensitive don't like to fight back. The two things they found that helps boys who are bullied is support of the teachers and support of their peers. So encourage your son to join activities so that so there's a bully trying to push one kid, his friends come around, and then the bully backs down. What's wrong with you? Why are you trying to pick on this one, my friend? And then the teacher intervention. And also they have, in America at least, a lot of experts coming into schools talking about bully prevention, how to treat people in a nice way. That's really important. And here's one thing I really have to emphasize. Never let your sensitive son be in a position where he's shamed or humiliated or bullied. So if it's not working at school and he's feeling like he's being teased and he doesn't fit in, and you try and work with the teacher and the principal and you try and make it work and it doesn't work, seriously consider having him go to maybe another school, homeschooling, but never let your son be in a situation where he's being bullied or humiliated or shamed, even in a subtle way, because I know in Denmark it's more subtle, but you have to make sure he's not getting shamed for who he is, otherwise he's going to have a lot of self-esteem issues. Okay, so this is a great story. My new book, The Power of Sensitivity, I collected, 43 stories. There's a story about a Danish mom who married a Canadian and moved to Canada. And I'm going to read it. It's a few sentences, but she was an amazing mom. And her son was about, I think, in first or second grade, and they had a gym class, sports, and he was sensitive, so he got overwhelmed by the noise, the children running around, and he couldn't understand the rules of the game. So then what he did was, he couldn't understand the teacher's explanation, so he just sat on the bench. He wouldn't join in, but he wouldn't say, wait, everybody stop, I don't understand what's going on. He just withdrew, which sensitive boys tend to do. So what the mom did, she volunteered. She went during the gym class and she played with the other kids, which inspired him to join in. And then when the boys saw how much fun her mom was having, he joined in and he started having fun. And then finally he ended up playing, and he turned out to be, he was a good athlete. But I really think in this case, if the mom didn't go to the school and encourage her son to join in, he would have ended up sitting on the bench, not playing football or any sports or playing with other kids for the rest of his school years. So this is such a great example. And the same mom did things like, if there was going to be a change in the school, she would meet with the teacher and she would go over the homework beforehand so he felt prepared. So it's really important to be as actively involved in the school as possible. So I want to talk about friendship. So since a lot of the sensitive boys are shy and they don't like aggressive fighting, which a lot of boys do, they may have difficulty hanging around with groups. Most boys like to hang around in big groups, but if you think of a sensitive boy who has a hard time with so much stimulation, if you're in a group with like 5 other boys, it's like, wait a minute, this is hard because you don't know if someone's going to say something, it's too overwhelming. So my feeling is, and I remember Elaine Ahrens saying that, all your son needs is 1 or 2 good friends. They don't have to hang out with a big group. And that's fine, that helps them a lot. And a lot of times when boys together, they kind of tease each other, it's kind of boy teasing. But for a sensitive boy who experiences it on a deep level, they have a hard time with that. So that's again a reason why, they don't, but again, every boy is different. But most boys prefer like just hanging out with 1 or 2 friends rather than huge groups. And in terms of sports, almost, I think it's like 90% of the men I interviewed preferred individual sports to group sports. Now, I did have men who did play hockey and football and different group sports, but it's a lot more difficult for many sensitive boys. And so most sensitive boys would like running or biking or swimming or maybe tennis with one other person rather than like where there's a lot of pressure, because it's all that pressure on one child, so then they have a harder time with that. But it's also important for sensitive boys to learn how to navigate with non-sensitive boys as he grows up. Since 80% of the people are non-sensitive, he needs to learn how to do that. So I think it's great to have a sensitive boy be friends with and hang out with boys who are sensitive, non-sensitive, as long as the non-sensitive boys are respectful. And are understanding and respectful. Again, it's all individual. You could have a sensitive boy try to be friends with a sensitive boy, but the sensitive boy could be kind of demanding or whatever, and there could be a non-sensitive boy who could be very accepting. So it has more to do with how accepting and respectful the other friend is. But usually it's a little bit easier because sensitive boys would tend to avoid more of the boisterous, big, group activity, doing risks and challenging each other. But I think it's important though and I'm going to read actually right now about a sensitive man from Denmark and how he started making friends with non-sensitive boys. But it's important that he's not spending all his time alone. So I'm really encouraging whether it's a sensitive friend or a non-sensitive friend to spending time with other people. So one man from Denmark said, "Until my teens, I really lived in my own world, going to the library after school by myself, bicycling alone, going on solitary explorations near my house. When I reached 14, I realized that I was lonesome and also began getting interested in girls. I thought the girls wouldn't be interested in me if I seemed too weird. I then forced myself to begin getting together with one or two other extroverted, non-sensitive boys after school on weekends. I ended up feeling better about myself having made those friends and kept them. But I had a hard time keeping up with them. So that partly answers your question, because they have to keep up with these more aggressive guys. But I enjoyed feeling like I was finally part of a group, but at the same time, I also realized how different I was from my friends. However, hanging out with them toughened me up, which is what I think I needed then. But even guys who played on sports teams said they never really felt like they were like the other guys on the sports teams in terms of how they were interacting. Because the sensitive guy would still be a little bit more introverted and want to be alone and wouldn't be quite as aggressive. It doesn't always work.